Hi YouTube! This is my very first video for Nutrition and Strength. I am your host, Lynn Waring, and I thought tonight, because I needed to document my recipe for plantain bread, that I would start off my channel with a really simple recipe that you can use. It's versatile and it's really tasty. So I'm going to walk you through all the ingredients and we'll just get started. So for plantain bread, okay, first of all, I don't eat gluten anymore. It's a sad story, but I'm getting used to it. And this is one of the things that helps you get used to it, get over it. Some people are purists and don't do any bread-like substances, but for me, this wonderful fruit from the banana family is a helpful alternative to having real bread. So, what is a plantain? A plantain is from the banana family. You can find it usually next to the bananas. I get mine at Wegmans. They're 33 cents a piece. So they're very cheap. Getting into a plantain is actually, you can't peel it like a banana. It's very tough. So what I do is I just take off the top and the bottom of the plantain and then slice it, kind of like you're getting into a fish or something. And you can take that slice, get your thumb underneath the skin of the plantain, and then just keep peeling all the way around. So it's a little bit of work to get into the plantain. Plantains are not sweet like bananas until they are very dark in color. So this is kind of a greenish plantain. An example of a plantain who's getting a little riper. This is going to make a sweeter bread. But here is our normal plantain, kind of greenish still. And I'm almost done peeling the skin off the plantain. So, dispose of that. So here's my peeled plantain. Looks like a banana. Don't eat it like this. This is not supposed to be good for you. So I'm just going to take my plantain and chop it up into little pieces. About like that. You can hear it falling into the container for my nutribullet. I don't have a big blender or food processor, so I'm putting the plantain into the nutribullet. Okay, we'll set that aside. I've got my ingredients list up here. Okay, the next ingredient we have are 2 eggs. Recently, eggs decided to depart from my diet. It wasn't really what I wanted, but it just sort of happened. I started reacting to them. So what I do instead, this was ground up yesterday and I kept it in the fridge. I'm a little concerned about eating too much flaxseed. You've probably heard of flaxseed eggs. Very effective in baking, but I don't want to have too much flaxseed. It mimics estrogen and you don't want to be eating a lot of that. So what I did is I took a 1/3 cup of flax, a 1/3 cup of chia seed, and a 1/3 cup of grass-fed gelatin, and I ground the seeds up in my nutribullet and then mixed in the gelatin, so I ended up with a cup of egg. The formula I use for the egg is 1 tablespoon of this stuff to 2.5 tablespoons of water. Tablespoons, I'm really exact on this recipe. About 2 tablespoons, whoops, oh, that was exciting. About 2 tablespoons of my egg mixture, some of which just fell on the iPad. It's kind of gross. Okay, so we've got our egg mixture, and I'm going to put it into 5 tablespoons of water. And this you just stir up with a fork. It will get kind of gelatinous in just a minute. So you can see it's mixing nicely. Already it's getting kind of slimy. as the egg and the flax and the chia absorb water as well as the gelatin. So now it's like pretty much the consistency of an egg. I'm going to let it set for a second while I put the rest of the ingredients in. Okay, so back to my blender. I have grapeseed oil here, grapeseed, and I'm going to take a 1/4 cup of grapeseed oil and add that to my blender. Now, by the way, I am not afraid of fat. Fat doesn't make you fat. Carbohydrates make you fat. So balancing out the high carbohydrate plantain with some fat is actually a really smart thing to do. I'm going to take a 1/2 cup of water and add to this, making a mess here. So you can see that the water-oil mixture kind of comes to the top of the plantain in my blender jar. We've got our water, grapeseed oil. I just recently started doing this, adding a couple tablespoons of coconut flour. Now there's lots of coconut flours out there. I really like this one. This is the King Arthur flour, and it's the taste of it. I like the taste of this one better than the others. It's a nice, fine grain. It's not a grain at all, but it's a fine grind, I should say. Here, again, about 2 tablespoons, so that's half of my 1/4 cup measure of my coconut flour going into my blender with the plantain. Okay, coconut flour. The final thing to add is actually some seasoning. So I've got some real salt here. I love sea salt, real salt. I don't eat iodized salt. It says it's pink salt, but I think it's real salt. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of salt, like to taste. I'm also not afraid of salt because you need salt in order to live. Okay, so here's my egg. And as you can see, it's already become this wonderful gelatinous mixture, and it's going to give my bread some body here. So it goes right into the mix. So here's the bread. This is when I first realized that I had to give up gluten. I will admit to crying for about a day. And why was I crying? Because I could no longer have bread? No, not really, because you can give up a food and it shouldn't destroy your life. But what I was crying about is giving up the tradition of bread making, which was really important in my family. Recipes carried on from generation to generation, people being famous in their community for creating this wonderful wheat bread. And I thought I'd lost all of it. But I'm trying to create some new traditions. So here's my bread. No yeast, no leavening, just a couple plants in there. I'm going to put the regular blender on, and it's going to be really loud, but I like to shake it down in there. So now I'm going to blend this up, and there you go. There's the bread. It is a liquid bread. And once I get this off, you can see that the dough is just this almost like pancake batter. So here's my bread. This is the batter complete. You've got just oil, water, a plantain, a couple tablespoons of seeds, and coconut flour. To bake this bread, it's going to be a flat bread, so it'll create little tiny flatbreads. Or you can actually make a large flatbread. I'm going to try this out. My brother just gave me one of these, or a couple of these for Christmas, and I'm going to lay that on a cookie sheet. And for this one, I'll make just one big flatbread. I'm going to use just a portion of this, pour it on to the mat, and then spread it out, kind of like this is a completely different technique than what you would ever use making wheat bread. You just take this pancake dough and spread it out on the mat like it's gonna be a large flat bread. It's actually kind of fun with this little square. A little bit more. And I will... Now at this point you can do things like add sesame seeds or something on it, or add herbs on top of it. And this bread is actually sort of has evolved from reading a number of different posts on plantain flatbreads. So of course Sarah Ballantyne has a plantain cracker that's just plantain and I think just oil. Someone else took that and added a few other ingredients and created plantain tortillas, and over the last couple months it sort of evolved for me into this particular recipe. But what I've ended up with, if I can show you, maybe I can show you without it falling, is just, you see the bread is just spread out on the mat. I'm going to put that in at 400 degrees for 15 minutes and then I'll flip it. Right, so the bread has been in the oven for just, let's see, just over 10-12 minutes, something like that. And it's cooking a little faster than I anticipated. But you can see it's actually, you can pick it up. It's just a flat bread. I already turned it over, but I don't want it to burn. So I found it easy to turn it over. And then it goes in the oven. It looks like it might only need another 10 minutes to cook. You see, it's a very flat bread. It's ended up kind of stiff. I made it pretty thin. If you keep cooking it, it's going to end up a little bit more like a cracker. This one ended up really thin. I'll make a thicker one. But you can now take this, and I guess, you know, actually you can just kind of bend it. As they cool, they tend to be a little more bendy. But now you have like a flatbread for a sandwich. And it's just very tasty. Anyway, this is what I take to church if we're going to have communion. Because I don't trust gluten-free products either, because I'm grain-free at the moment. I actually will take a little piece of plantain with me to church for communion. But anyway, it's very good. People who don't like gluten-free products tend to be fine eating this. I think one of the things that I've learned living with food allergies and living with, oh, it's not a big deal, we'll just take this out, or you can eat this in place of that. I've decided I can't do that. I can't do things like, oh, this is just like bread. This is not just like bread. This is a plantain bread. So you should enjoy the plantain and the fact that it makes something that's like bread. But it's not bread. It has a very good flavor to it. This one ended up really thin. I have a really hard time not eating the whole thing. But after cooking these, so it's my cooking day today, and I try to like make enough food that I'm going to be full and not eat all of this in one setting. But it's a very, very tasty food. You can spread it with peanut butter. Believe it or not, I have a lot of food allergies, but I can eat peanut butter, so I do. You can spread it with peanut butter. You can put chicken salad on it. You can serve it as a side to soup. I mean, it's very good, especially like this when it's so thin. You can just crumble it up like crackers in your soup. It's good with hummus. It's a very versatile little bread, and so I hope you enjoy this. Again, I'll write out the recipe in the description box below so that you can follow it. But yeah, 400 degrees, about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the thickness of the bread and the hotness of your oven. And you have a gluten-free alternative that is tasty enough for everybody in your family to enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed the inaugural broadcast of the Nutrition and Strength channel, and hopefully I'll be back to give you more tips and tricks on allergy-friendly, and gluten-free life. Thank you.